Hello, everyone. This is a program called Inside Comics, and I am your host, Comic Hero, here at the Public Library. We're doing a program today on how to take care of your comic books for all those collectors out there or for those who are just interested in getting into comic book collecting of some sort. So, uh, the first and foremost thing is we buy comics because we enjoy comic books. We enjoy reading comic books. And what we want to do, a lot of us, is when we buy these books, we want to take care of them as best as possible. And there are a number of ways we can keep our comic books up. And I'm going to talk about that today here on Inside Comics. One of the things we can do uh, when we buy our comic books is to make sure that we are keeping the books as clean as possible. And one of the ways to do that is to bag our comic books up. This is a acid-free bag, as you can see, and we can put our comic books in here to keep these books clean. Now, to support our comic book, once we get it in the bag, we get, or we can have, what is called acid-free boards. So these items can be purchased at any comic book store, or you can buy these items on eBay. eBay sells quite a few comic book materials, including comic books. So this is called a board. This is an acid-free board, and the acid-free boards are really important. You can get the acid-free or the non-acid-free boards, but you want a acid-free board to protect your comic, and this is a acid-free bag. You want that to protect your comics, and the reason why is because the plastic at some point begins to break down. Your regular plastic will break down, and it will eventually affect the comic. Also, uh, there are various comics now. A lot of collectors collect the old comics, and the old comics are more of a newspaper type of comic, as you can see from this Batman comic. This comic is from 1962. So this newspaper type of comic book tends to deteriorate faster because of the various uh, acids in the air. And you want to protect this book as best as you can in not a polyester bag. You want a acid-free bag. This particular bag, which is acid-free, is a Mylar bag. So these bags are really, really helpful, especially for books that are, say, your prized possessions. This particular book I keep in a Mylar bag because it is an older book and it's subject to deteriorate much faster than, say, this book here, which is a 2018 book. You can see the difference in the paper. So again, we want to keep our books in acid-free bags. We want to board them. And the reason why we are boarding the books is to protect them from being bent. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to board this book. Okay. And you can see this book is boarded. Now, another thing in handling your books is to keep your hands clean. And I did wash my hands before I started this taping of this program. So you want to wash your hands and when you're handling your comics, because it is easy to leave fingerprints or to dirty up your book. I have a tendency to put on gloves when it comes to black books. Now, I don't have a black book on hand, but the problem with a black book, whether the front cover is black or the back of the book is black, it is easy to get a fingerprint on those books, and they are harder to get rid of. In fact, you cannot get rid of fingerprints once you get them on a book. Here is a perfect example of a darker book that you want to be careful. In this case, I tend to put on gloves with darker books. Okay? Your next thing you probably want to do is you want to keep your books as neat as possible, and you want to file them. You'll note that I have a box of books here, and inside this box of books are all comics. These books are all in acid-free bags. They're bagged and boarded, and they are in alphabetical order. Now, you want to keep, now, this is called a long box. Let me clear that up. And this is a short box. So you can use, and I tend to use the longer boxes. These boxes hold about 150 books, and of course these hold less. But I have a lot of comics, so I need the longer boxes. And occasionally I will use short boxes for other items, other comic book items. So the other thing you want to be aware of is you want to keep your box dry. You want to keep it in a dry area. You want to keep your books in a dry area. You don't want your books in heat, and you don't want your books in sun. Okay? Those two items right there will actually destroy your comics, or will bring the life of the comic down faster than you want. Now, another way to protect your books is by slabbing. This is called a slab, and you don't have to slab your books, but there are a lot of comic book collectors who will slab their books, either because the book is an expensive book, or the book is something means something sacred to them. So in the case of this book is not necessarily a pricey book, but it is a book in my collection that I like. I particularly like this character that is on the cover of this book. And I tend to collect war comics, and I particularly care for this character. Now, you'll notice that there's a number here in the corner of this, what is called a slab. It is a 2.5, which is not a very high grade. Your highest grade would be like 9899. So this is a low grade book. So one of the reasons why it's in a slab is because I like the character, I like the book, And I wanted to make sure that the book would not deteriorate, and it would last for a long, long time. So slabs are another way to protect your book, either because you find the book really sacred to you, it's your collector's item, or it's a really pricey, expensive book. Other factors in keeping your books clean and safe is don't have water or coffee around your books. If you're drinking or you're eating, step away. You do not want to stain these items because once you stain them, you cannot get these stains out. Again, you want to store these in a dry, fairly dark place. It doesn't have to necessarily be in a closet. And you want to always store your books in these boxes. You don't want to stack your books. So in stacking your books, and if you're really concerned about your books, you have to be concerned about what are called Scientix. If you want to really preserve your books and not have them damaged, you really don't want a whole lot of Scientix on your book. So if you take a stack of books and keep them on there for a little bit of time, they tend to wear the books down and they tend to develop issues that will eventually cause some damage to your books. Okay. Now, I've had people talk to me about the price of comic books, and some books, now, in general, comic books are not every comic book has a lot of value. And the ones that do have value, that's another subject we can explore here on Instant Comics or Inside Comics. We can explore that avenue later. I want to also add something else while I'm thinking about it. This book, for protection and against sunlight, UV light, has a plastic coating on it that I've added. It's an adhesive, and it's called a UV blocking protective sheet. So these protective sheets, you can put on the back, put on the front of your slab. These are also helpful in protecting your books, and especially if your books are pricey books. If you are looking to buy pricey books, we can talk about that subject at another time. Again, protecting your comics, keep them in a slab, which you would have to send your books off to have these slabs, which you'll have to pay for. Or you can just go to a comic book store, or you can go on eBay and you can buy bags, you can buy your boards, and you can also buy your boxes at the comic book store, short boxes or long boxes. Now, another thing that I didn't mention is holding the backs of your comics together. So, once you put these books in your bag, there are people who take your lip here on the back of the bag. I use painter's tape. The reason why I use painter's tape is a lot of people have damaged their books when they have the scotch tape on the lip of the bag and taking your book out of the bag. Sometimes you can catch the cover of the book from the tape. The tape will, a lot of times, will remove some of the covering off the book, and you've just done some damage to your book. So I go with painter's tape. Painter's tape you can find anywhere, in Walmart or one of the your hardware stores, Home Depot. eBay sells it, not hard to find. Anyway, that is going to wrap it up for today. Again, Inside Comics. I'm your host, Comic Hero. If you have any questions about maintaining your comic books, you can always contact me here at the St. Louis Public Library. If you have any other questions about your books, you can also, again, contact me here at St. Louis Public Library. See you again, okay?